church like these things, that as the church has gotten larger, I'm so glad we haven't lost stuff that just makes us feel fuzzy and warm all over. That we haven't kind of made a conscious decision to what? Be more proper and correct. Or I have a really hard time with proper and correct. My son called me, I told you 5 times yesterday. That's because I called him. I'm thirsty. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm a guy. I rode the motorcycle one day this week, and I went out by Walmart. Went into Walmart for something, and I think I got a sub sandwich, and went out and dropped it in the bag on the motorcycle. You know, I could quiet that motorcycle down. I kind of like it the way it is. I mean, God. And some little boy with his grandma comes out and oh wow, started it. His grandma laughs, and I turned it off, and I said to the little boy, I said, see, the only difference between men and boys is the size of their feet and the price of their toys. This is just a big boy toy. I called my son, and I said, hey, I saw this thing online. See, we dads, my life has been shaped by being a father. I'm a believer because a heavenly Father saved me when I was lost. And as a man, my life has been shaped, well, frankly, by Melody. She's here, and by Michael. I take that to be a very serious thing. Now, not serious to the point of, unfortunately, when you're younger and you're raising those kids, and there's no owner's manual, and what you're going through is absolutely normal. Some people say it's not normal to you. You've never seen it before. It's your absolutely unique first time and only time experience with it. And sometimes it just scares the life out of you. And so sometimes we get really, particularly we dads, we are really stirring about some stuff. You know, and we haven't learned because we're still boys trying to be men, trying to be fathers. We haven't learned that there's some stuff you're better off just not seeing. And some fights that aren't worth having. But it shapes us. I'm shaped by being a pastor. It makes me feel like I'm the father of 250 people. Oh, I have 2 kids. But I drive through town, and I feel like, sometimes I feel like the father of the town, and I'm aware as I go through town. When you're stopped distracted on a street corner, trying to find something on your cell phone or text something, and people who work for the city stop and say, go ahead, Pastor Mill, and wave you across, and you're not even ready to go. You realize that somebody's watching. It's like being a parent. So my life is shaped by being a father. The moment of healing that first happened many years ago, although it took until recent years for it to kind of be complete for my father, for my feeling about my own dad, was Melody was a baby. Dad drove from Kingman out to Los Angeles, out to Glendale, and showed up. It's Dad. He announced he was going to stay for 3 days. I mean, I left home years earlier and had never gone back. I'd written to Grandma about the baby and all of that, but I've never gone back. There's Dad. And he sat in a little, vinyl rocking chair. We had white vinyl. Thank God I don't have that one. And sat there with that little kid and just would rock and talk to Melody for hours. She was a lot more patient than she'd actually sit there and listen. And I realized how much that had shaped Dad's life and how much that moment shaped mine. I should finish telling you my Michael story. I've talked about Melody. I'm a guy I saw online. We talked about it in coffee. That Hornady had run out of zombie bullets. Anybody played the zombie games? Yeah. So I went online and I searched and I found zombie bullets. It says on the box, absolutely cannot be used, must not be used on real people. These are real zombie bullets. And I ordered them. And when I got them, I texted Michael and I said, got zombie bullets. Kind of like the kid in the parking lot. I get a text back, yeah, how's that work? Well, then I get a phone call. Oh, you got your zombie bullets on? Yeah, I got them. I said, I just had, it's funny, I've blown $25 on stupider things. Wedding license comes to mind. I'm sorry, that's a joke. Our 43rd anniversary is Thursday. But that's a joke, it's a joke. I just couldn't resist it. Probably should have. Flowers are on the way, guys.
You don't want boundaries, or
Ma'am, Thursday's our anniversary. Flowers are on the way. Put an extra rose in the pot, please.
43 of them, please.
No. I've spent $25. Where were we? Oh, it's going to be more than 25 now. I'm telling you. All right. So Michael calls and says, "Oh, I got to get that gun I've been talking about." Then think I got to decide which one to get, because then I'll come over and we can both kill zombies. We're guys. So I went to Bass Pro yesterday. I bought splattering zombie targets. Now, Scotty, you know we're going to have fun with the splattering zombie targets, don't you? Can you go? I don't know, because I found a hole in that walnut tree from our last thing 12 foot in the air. And I'm wondering who was aiming at the target down here and it went up 12 foot in the air. But I think it was James on there. You know, sometimes it's not just guys. I'm trying to watch the movie Act of Valor last night. Good movie, I recommend it, by the way. Not for little children. Some of you would really enjoy that movie. And my phone rings 5 times during the course of the movie. Once earlier for Michael before the movie, and then 4 times for Michael during the movie, and then once from another child of mine who ran out of gas on the interstate. Who was that? And I have a new, one of those fancy DVR Bluetooth things. I have no clue which one of those buttons you're supposed to pause it with. So every time I hit the stop button, I have to go through and watch all the previews again. 5 times I did. I mean, it's like, all right, just give up. The biggest act of valor there is sitting here and trying to watch this dumb thing. But it's Michael, and he has caught it. Dad, I'm at Bass Pro, and I found the gun, and I think I want, what do you think about it? Well, you know, Then 20 minutes later, it's all, I'm home, I didn't buy anything. I could tell he was kind of disappointed. I thought, just think, maybe, think about this, and you can still do it. And then 20 minutes later, he calls and says, well, I just left Bass Pro, I went back and got it. And he says, calls 20 minutes later and says, well, we went to Columbus and we shot it. Cindy's yelling, I shot it too, and I hit the can. Yeah, Cindy wants you to know she hit the can. And the last one was, well, now I got to figure out when I can come down, and you get a hold of Zed and the guys, and we can shoot zombies. We're guys. We're fathers, but we were boys first. There still remains a little bit in us. And some of us a little more than others. But we're guys. It's the story of a father. Luke, the 15th chapter. They call it the story of the prodigal son. 11th verse, 15th chapter, book of Luke. But you can't have the prodigal son without having the father here. Story. See, one of the great truths I had to learn about myself was, at least in large part, I was my mother and my father, even when I didn't know my mom and I didn't like my father. But genetically, obviously, I was half of both of them. Deal with it. Say, well, my mom or my dad were just not very nice people. It's about time to get over it. It's about time to forgive them. I have wonderful Christian people who tell me things that have happened in their lives that a father or that a parent or was responsible for, and they say something like, well, I tried to forgive, but I just can't. I want to tell you, are you listening to me? You know I love you, right? I want to tell you that that's a lie from the enemy. You can't do. I didn't say it would be easy. And differing from the world in a lot of ways, I think it's one thing to clear the air and to say it and get it out there, but I think it's another thing to constantly dwell on it and talk about it and just chew on it all the time. I mean, after you finally climbed out of a hog wallow, the story here, don't go back in. Put it in the rearview mirror. Dads aren't perfect. I have apologized to both of my children for my imperfections. I'm even apologize to the son and daughter-in-law for my imperfections, because they're living with them. Well, it is. I've apologized to God for my failures as a man, and my heart's been broken by it, but some time back I decided I'm not going to be broken-hearted anymore. I'm not going to have, I said to Michael, Michael, there are a couple of times when I just pretty much knocked them loose. And I wish I had known how to be calmer, gentler, and I'm sorry. And Michael says, oh, you should beat me some more. I don't recall being abused. Well, I had a couple of occasions when I went overboard, and I knew it. But once you've been forgiven, asked for forgiveness, done all you can do, you're standing there as still a parent. And Jesus says a man has two sons. A younger one says to his father, Father, give me my share of the estate. I want my inheritance. I would rather have your money than have you alive. That's what that feels like to me. Not long after that, the younger son got together all that he had, because having all that money in his hand and still being at Dad's house didn't appeal to him. He wanted to go someplace where the lights were shiny and where he would have lots of friends. And it turned out that since he was there and he had lots of money, did the notes not come over, huh? Go over to the folder and see if there's another one saved, a new one saved that might have it. Since he had lots of money, he discovered he had lots of friends. And there he squandered his wealth in wild living. And after he'd spent everything, there was a severe famine in the country, and he began to be in need. He was hungry. So he went, and he hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him to the field to feed pigs. Jesus is talking to a Jewish audience. This means almost nothing to us today to say, all right, so he worked feeding pigs. What's the big deal? This is a big deal. I don't even know what we've got. That we're going to send you to work in the worm farm. How about a place where they raise cockroaches? There we go. I found it. Your nose is all wrinkled up. They use them, and of course later if they grind them up for pet food or something. But you're in there, and day by day, you're raking cockroaches around, crawling off the walls and eating stuff, and feeding them. And finally, you get so hungry because your pay is not enough that you decide to try the cockroach food. And I'm here to tell you, if you're hungry enough, you'll do it. You're hungry enough, you'll do it. You think people who live on stuff like that they have to scrape out for a living to survive? You think that they, when they were born and being raised, they were saying, you know what, when I get older, I want to eat cockroach food. No! It's where they're at. And that's where he was at. Now, not being an entire fool, he decided he didn't like where he was at. He discovered after the money ran out, his friends ran out too. And let me tell you something. You listen up, babies. If you're willing to pay the bill, people will always be willing to pardon. Are you listening to me? I said if you're willing to pay the bill, they're willing to pardon. You want to find out who's going to be true to you, you run out of money and find out who stands beside you. You say, I'm not partying anymore, and you see who stands beside you, and you'll find out that there's very few. You have been warned. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, or cockroaches. When he came to his senses, at some point he said, what am I doing here? How many of my father's hired men have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I said, I will go back to my father's house. Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men. So he got up and went to his father, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him, filled with compassion for him, ran to his son, threw his arms around him, kissed him, and the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm not worthy to be called your son. But the father said to the servant, all right, he spent all his money already in partying, but now we're going to have a party at my expense. Put a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet, bring the fat calf, kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to celebrate. And I have to say this, and move right along with this. The heart of the Father has to be strong. It has to be. And dads, you're here this morning, young men who are yet to start a family or are just starting a family, you got to have some backbone. One of the things you need to do as a dad is be able to say no. Try it, say no. No. That's why they don't listen to the way you said it. Your kids are like our dog. Sorry, I know you think your kids are much more than that. You're probably the same parent who'd say, my kid would never lie to me. Your kid will lie to you, look you right in the face, cry, cross their heart, and lie like a dog. But not my kid, every other kid in creation. They will look at you and lie. You know how I know that? Because you looked at your parents and lied. And they're just like you. That's where we started. So dads, you gotta have a backbone. And one of the things you gotta be able to do is say no. And it's harder. You want to say yes. Sometimes you need to say no just to prove you can say no. Not even because it's a big deal. But a dad's also got to be able to handle disappointment, because there's times when you just, everybody knows the Cosby routine. I brought you into this world and I can take you out. Look back there and make another one look just like you. Sorry, that's just a sale. If I'll take you out, I don't want anything around here looking like you. A dad, a parent, has got to be able to handle disappointments. A dad's got to be able to maintain the fences and keep things safe. When the prodigal comes home, dad's right there inside of the fence, looking for the son, but he's kept the fences strong. Because safety lies in coming back inside some boundaries. That's hard. For some people, it's hard because they've never set boundaries. And we won't even go there. But you figure that one out. If you've never set any boundaries, how's a kid supposed to know how to get back to what the safe side is? I mean, I have a certain granddaughter who would stand on the edge of the boundaries and dangle her toes off. Don't you go out in that street. That's a pretty firm voice. Miriam says to the puppy, Buddy, come back here right now. Buddy, I mean it. I really mean it. Kind of like those people in the store. All right, little boy. 1, 2, 3. What's supposed to happen in 3? I really mean it. No, I really mean it. No, this time I really mean it. You know, Mel, Buddy won't come. Buddy, get down here right now. Dads have got to have boundaries. Parents have got to have boundaries. People have to have boundaries. The dad keeps a lookout for opportunities to save their kids. Dads, you're here, and so often Father's Day sermons in my church have been like fathers come to church and then the preacher beats them up for being fathers. I want to congratulate you on trying to raise your kids. I want to congratulate you. You're here in church with your kids. I'm not going to preach to those people who aren't here today. That'd be a waste of all of our time. Some of you are here and your kids are just struggling. I'll tell you, it's still good to pray with your kids. Say, but they're grown up. I just told you about the stupid 63-year-old grown-up preacher who went out and bought zombie targets. We're none of us that grown up. Take the opportunities. I discovered with ours, when they wanted to talk, was the time to talk, and it didn't matter whether you were busy or not. They freely forgive. Gotta move. They freely embrace. And they give their all. The kid's already spent his inheritance. How are we going to have a party now? His daddy will empty his heart out. video for you. I'm going to show you this. I'm going to give you a chance to make this declaration.
For the last 6 weeks, I've preached on God's design for fathers, to be teachers, to be protectors, to be providers. I read to you this resolution that was written and signed by the 4 men standing behind me. But instead of just talking about these men, I want to ask Adam Mitchell to come and speak to us.
As a law enforcement officer, I've seen firsthand the deep hurt and devastation that fatherlessness brings in a child's life. Our